Hello, I'm John Dries from Honorable Third Party. In this video I'm going to be discussing the various combat specialties of EVE Online. This project won in the poll I held on the community page of this YouTube channel, so thank you to everyone who voted. So, let's get started. In EVE Online, after new players complete the tutorial, they are left to determine their own path forward. When they ask the community what they should do, they're often told, do whatever you like doing, which is a good answer, but it's not actually that helpful to a new player trying to decide what they want to do. When a new player decides that they'd like to try PvP, they're often told, grab a T1 frigate, go get in a fight. While there can be value in that, the experience that they're likely to have is rough. Most players are not solo, and a new player dedicating their limited resources to finding fast-paced 1v1 frigate combat will frequently result in them losing to multiple enemies. This can be frustrating, especially when they'd already be at a disadvantage if they can actually find a solo target. That's why, in my opinion, encouraging brand new PvPers into one of the most challenging types of PvP is a mistake. Frigate combat takes place in a shorter amount of time with less room for error than larger ships, and solo PvP is hard in general, so the combination may not be the best place to start your PvP career. Unless you have some desire to be a lone wolf and learn every lesson the hard way, you'll want to find a group of people to fly with, because although solo PvP can be very satisfying, I find that things are more fun when you're sharing your experiences with some close friends. Besides, you can always dive into solo PvP once you learn a bit with your friends and have some idea what you're actually doing. So, in this video lecture, I'm going to try and outline some of the combat specialties within fleets that you might set for yourself as a long-term goal as a new player. Fleet combat is extremely scalable, from just a few ships to literally thousands, regardless of whether it's a skirmish-fighting nanogang or a super capital-heavy strategic operation. All correctly designed fleets tend to have the same main parts. That is, while the ships will vary, they have people filling the same roles. If you play long enough, it's likely that you'll eventually fill every position within a fleet at one time or another. However, it's very useful to specialize, especially early on when it's less likely that you'll have the skill points, knowledge, or money to fill every role well. Fleets can be divided into two main parts, the line and the support. The line consists of the fleet commander, primary DPS ships, and fleet logistics. Usually, fleets are named for the ships that make up their primary DPS. For example, a fleet with Feroxes as their primary DPS will simply be referred to as a Ferox fleet. The fleet commander, or FC as they're commonly referred to, may be in a standard line ship, or in the case of larger scale fleet combat, they could be in a specialized ship like a command ship with extra tank, or even a monitor, which is a ship specifically meant for FCs to lead their fleets from and avoid being headshot. Headshotting being the practice of destroying the enemy FC to cause disorganization in an enemy fleet. FCing successfully requires a well-rounded knowledge of all the various fleet positions, as well as an understanding of the current meta and balance of fleet doctrines and PvP ships. That said, FCing definitely deserves its own video, maybe several, so I'll just leave you with an example of what an FC might be trying to listen to when asking people in their fleet comms to remain quiet.
We're going to switch back to Moraine if this guy catches. So be ready to switch back to the other basilisk.
Did you want carriers to undock? I didn't hear
what you said, Spec. Combat carriers, get ready.
Combat carriers undock.
What, Spec?
I want the Sino on the Astra going up.
Triage as well, or just combat carriers?
Right now?
Get ready to switch to the other basilisk of Moraine.
You're jumping to the Apostle.
Meeker, you broke out on the Apostle.
Okay, I got him.
What about the other ship?
Alright, I'm getting in position now.
Thank you.
He's getting pretty low.
Okay,
oh, yeah, GR's in position. You're gonna jump to Golf Romeo.
Stop heating.
Golf, go ahead.
Might, come on.
Everybody undock combat carriers right now.
Motherfucker.
Sino's up.
Where's the Sino? Okay.
He's almost ready. Okay, our Sino is up.
Sino's up.
Right.
Yes, come on, give us that. Heat.
Your priority here is
heat right now. Heat right now. Fuck yes, Moraine now. Moraine. This is your new primary.
We just took out a Basilisk.
Okay, good.
Moraine is your new primary. Moraine is your new primary. No more heat. I don't want anybody burning shit out.
Combat carriers, jump to H6. Meeker, do you want any faxes to go to right now?
We have faxes on field already.
We have a single
fax. Faxes standby.
It's fine.
After that, we're going to go for Ferox of Jonathan. Go for Ferox of Jonathan, broadcasting. Jonathan, podding.
Yeah.
They're going to bail. They're going to fucking bail. They're going to bail.
The fax to go with you, Meeker?
Yes.
Yeah, you are the only Logi.
And away we go.
Please come.
Shoot at Crow, so you guys have Crow them. Lost that broadcasting again. Only did 200 to the Scimitar. Get ready to switch to Crow. Okay, after your next cycle, switching to servers. Crow. Fire now.
Are you firing with the thing with Jiggy?
Yeah. Eat your crashes if you haven't.
Is Fed Up here friendly with us?
Yes. Do not shoot Fed Up.
Yeah, suck all your drugs, boys.
While we're doing the snowflakes exile.
There we go, there's some damage. When he hits the ADC and then eventually catches, we're going to switch to Splant. Oh, that guy got I guess that works. Okay, listen, Splant, and then after that we're going to go for Jaden. Okay, fire on Splant now, 3, 2, 1, go. And actually, I wonder if he'll figure this out. Oh, they're getting fucking. Okay, next one, Splant. Or, sorry, Jaden, this next one. Fire, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get some more targets up. Get more up.
Yeah, I am. Broadcasting Rami. Broadcasting Revere. Block those fuckers.
Jaden ADC.
That's fine, hit Revere. 3, 2, 1, go for Revere. Jaden's still got missiles going towards him.
They just fucking ooshed away.
Okay, make sure you got your range script in. Actually, we should still be able to hit them at 260. Guys, MWD's on for just a second. I wonder if they'll stick around if we push towards them a little bit. Triage, let me know if I start pulling us out of range, but we're just going to directly head towards them for 10 kilometers, basically.
I'll clear my broadcast out. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to be switching targets in a sec.
I don't know.
Guys, reload now.
I guess that's game.
As a new pilot who's just starting to learn combat, you're likely to participate as a line DPS ship, so long as you have the necessary skills trained on your character to do so. While the DPS positions are likely the most numerous in a given fleet, each member still plays a critical role. In larger scale fleets, having enough DPS ships correctly following commands to Alpha, or kill ships in one shot, is how battles heavy on fleet logistics and triage are won.
Any other detectors coming in? Fire in 3, 2, 1, fire!
So, how can you be a successful fleet member filling the role of line DPS? Well, here are some tips. 1. Have your ships in position and ready to go. Once your corporation or alliance has determined its preferred doctrines, it's important to actually have those ships available, and all the necessary ammo and equipment that goes with them. 2. Have your overview and broadcast windows set up correctly. Your main and sometimes only purpose as a fleet DPS ship is to deliver damage with the fleet. If you're failing to hit the correct targets or keep up with the FC's commands, you're useless. 3. As mentioned in the previous section, don't create unnecessary chatter on comms. Don't tell the fleet that you're dying. Don't tell the fleet that you're dead. Don't request repairs on comms. Use your broadcasts. Sometimes the rules for comms etiquette are more relaxed. A small group of experienced players might be having a casual conversation while roaming and PvPing. As a general rule, the larger a fleet is, the more comms discipline matters. What's really important is that if your FC asks you for silence, you give it to him. Mechanically, flying a line DPS ship is generally the most straightforward role in the fleet. There's a reason it's lovingly called being an F1 monkey. But without line DPS members, there is no fleet, so if this is the role you choose to fill it well. Fleet logistics and triage, the remote repairing ships of EVE Online. The role is incredibly important within fleets, often thankless and doesn't show up on kill boards. It's mechanically challenging, but a good logistics wing or triage pilot can easily sway the tide of an entire engagement. It's also not generally a role I frequently fill personally, so my expertise and, more importantly for this video, my catalog of recordings is a bit limited. Just know that a true Logi Bro is a sought-after specialty for any combat group. And as a new player, you can start with logistics frigates and stick with it all the way up to force auxiliaries or triage, which are capital scale fleet logistics. So, what do I have recordings of? What do I personally do in most of the fleets when I'm not FCing? The support.
Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Pick up the crew in the area. Still love you like that. No, we don't die. Yes, we multiply. Anyone press with the fire they sing. Act like you know we go. I know what don't know. Touch them up and go. Ching. Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer. Still love you like that. Extraordinary, just like a strawberry. Money to burn, baby, all the time. Got to fade is me, fade to cut is she. Come juggle with me, I say every time. Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Dial emergency number. Still love you like that. Start like a jackrabbit, finish in front of it. On the night is jack, that's it. Understand? I'm the daddy of the max, daddy. Is it left in goal, maybe? Ain't nobody gonna play me. Top celebrity man. Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer. Still love you like that. Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. I'm living on the danger. Still love you like that. Here come the Hotstepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer.
The support consists of all the parts of the fleet that are not included in the line. This means things like scouts, interdictors, command destroyers, bombing wings, and all forms of dedicated electronic warfare, and of course, anti-support. In many cases, these ships will not be following the primary targets or commands given by the FC. This means that flying them will require a bit more autonomy than the line ships. When it comes to scouting, a lot of times low skill point characters or people who don't have line ships ready are simply told by their FCs, bring an interceptor, and I think that undermines the serious value of having good scouts at the front of your fleet. Just because you're flying an interceptor doesn't mean that you're a scout. No, if you didn't mean to end up in an interceptor during fleet form-up, you're not a scout, you're just an unprepared fleet DPS member in the wrong ship. It's hard to convey all the things that a fleet scout is doing with a short highlight reel. Some of them don't translate that well into interesting video, and so they don't get recorded at all. But all decent scouts should be doing some of the same things. Those things include relaying information about hostiles to the FC, finding and pinning down isolated targets of opportunity, and assisting in fleet positioning on grid and providing correct warp-ins for the fleet. These skills come with time, and most pilots don't focus on becoming an effective scout in the first place. The role is deep and engaging, so if it's something that you find interesting, stick with it and see how much of an impact you can have on your fleet's success or failure. Another type of fleet support ships are interdictors. They're lightly tanked ships that can have a devastating effect on the way that an engagement plays out, so they make great primaries. And if you focus on being a good interdictor pilot, expect to go through a lot of ships. Still, they're really important for stopping hostiles from escaping, as well as doing something called defensive bubbling, which makes it more difficult for hostile fleets to position themselves where they'd like to be on grid. Command destroyers, otherwise known as booshers, are another type of support ship that can have a huge impact on fights. Here are some examples of their many uses.
So stay with me, baby. We can dance together. We can make it through the night. Showing in the laptop Stay with me, baby. We can dance together. We can make it through the night. Showing in the laptop
Some fleet compositions have a difficult time countering small support ships. This is where anti-support ships and fits come into play. Anti-support is a bit more contextual than some of the other categories, but in its most literal sense, anti-support ships are the ones within a fleet meant to destroy hostile support ships. So, to wrap things up, I'll leave you with a compilation of anti-support use cases. Thanks very much for watching. Visit us at honorable3rd.com for recruitment information and other content.